The primary thing that we are trying to do at Exposing Mold is to make mold illness go mainstream. We don't want to have to beg our doctors to listen. We don't want to have to educate our doctors who go to school for 12 years plus to become doctors. That's not our role. We just want them to understand what we deal with, and it's a failure of medicine to not understand what's happening with mold illness, and that failure of mainstream medicine to drop the ball on what's happening with mold illness has allowed mold illness to come into the hands of only cash pay providers. So now insurance will never cover it. This is related to how your family treats you, whether or not you believe it right now. Because all of medicine invalidating your illness means your family is backed up on basically saying that you're crazy. Lack of social proof from our organizations that are trusted with authority is part of what tortures families and prevents them from being able to work together as a unit for the most sensitive person. Every family who is mold sick has moldy drama. The encompassing point that I'm making before I dive into what this looks like in families is that the mainstream medicine not acknowledging this is what allows us to look like we're crazy or be invalidated by our families. If all of mainstream medicine was like, oops, you know those 87,000 diagnoses that we thought were unrelated that actually could all be connected to environmental illness? If they would come out and say that and start connecting the dots of like what neurotoxins are doing, what our immune systems are doing, what trichothecenes are doing, how many buildings are actually water damaged, if anyone would come out and formally connect these dots for mainstream, our families wouldn't be able to tell us that we're just crazy. And so mainstream medicine not acknowledging this puts us, honestly, if you've ever fought for your family, for your life, or have had your family totally destroyed because of this experience, because of the way that the toxins change personalities, because of the way it makes people aggressive and rude, because of the way people are so disrespectful and hateful and mocking, you feel like you're at war in your own life. I don't know how else to say it, but if you have literally had to fight for your life against your own family, and you either have won or lost, you know this feeling that I'm describing. And if you haven't been that sick, thank your lucky stars. I hope you never see that day. But this is what a lot of us are dealing with. What it should be, if doctors were super, super honest and really, really understood this, what they would tell patients is that the most sensitive person in the family is serving as a warning alarm for the rest of the family in that same environment. And this is a quote that I heard Eric say during our mold boot camp webinar. It's really the canary in the coal mine, the canary in the coal mine that goes and dies, that tells everyone else that coal mine isn't safe. That's what the most sensitive person is. They're serving as a warning system to tell everyone else in the house what's going to happen if they stay there for another 10 or 20, 30, 40 years. This is what your life is going to look like. This is how your health is going to go. Here's your warning. But instead of owning that and acknowledging that, people are like, oh, you're just so sensitive. It's just you. It's your genes. It's your gene activations. That's not accurate. I can tell you it's not accurate, and I can give you examples that will make sense to you because everyone in your home is affected to some degree. The person who says they're not affected usually is a denier, and they usually have gotten more mean, more condescending, more rude. You cannot connect with them. That's not normal. That's not a normal human presentation of a healthy, compassionate individual. That is someone who's like toxically sick. If you have to act like that and treat people in a hateful manner, something's wrong with you. Narcissism is the most overly abused term. I think narcissism personality characteristics come from like severe abuse or severe brain damage. And so, yeah, we're dealing with extreme amygdala damage in people who are like more worried about the $20,000 it's going to cost to fix their house than all their kids dying inside of it. Yeah, that's brain damage if you think money is more important than your kids' lives at this point. And you're obviously very, very sick to feel that way. That's not normal. If you're not prioritizing the health of your family above all else, I don't know what you're doing in your life, because it's not caring and taking care of your family. And this is the biggest problem that I personally see with DNRS, because I have had this fight with my family for the last, I don't even know how long at this point. And so many times I've been told, go on medication, Keely. This is obviously a you problem. You are just too sensitive. Well, you should just go live in a tent or in an RV because you could never live in a house. You're just too sensitive. You know what? I wasn't too sensitive. My house was surrounded by mold and no one knew because it was under the coil below the siding. And I wasn't too sensitive. My immune system was going crazy. And that is the same for so many people here who do not know it, because the remediation companies don't fully understand this. Your testing companies do not fully understand this. Unless you have walked the line of almost dying from mold hypersensitivity and then coming back the other side, you don't fully understand what it's like. And these cash pay doctors who are raping and robbing their patients, they don't understand what it's like either. If you've had a remediation or some general test and it looks like okay, they don't know how to screen to dig deeper for cross-contamination exposure, residual exposure, remediation failures, testing failures, because that's where you have to deep dive for answers into this. They just say, oh, you know what? Maybe you're just a highly sensitive person. Yeah, you're probably just a oh, you know what? You probably have fibromyalgia and Parkinson's and GI disorders and SIBO and Candida. But that's different from the mold because you took binders. No, it's not. And if you allow people to tell you that it is, like, good luck getting on top of your health. These issues are all connected. Chinese medicine does an amazing job of explaining how all these symptoms are connected, and maybe that's why it was easier for me to see it. The doctors who don't understand how all of this can work into the fact that you are still sick, they'll turn around and they'll recommend like DNRS. I'm not saying no calming benefit is derived from DNRS or the Wim Hof method or whatever biohacking skills that you want to try to use to hack neuroplasticity to calm your nervous system. But we just did an interview with a doctor who said, yeah, even in DNRS, all the lab values still spike. So the damage to the body is still happening. And instead of the doctor being like, oh yeah, maybe we shouldn't do DNRS because this is like a false sense of security for the body while all the lab values are still spiking, they're like, oh, well, it's still helpful. It's like mind blindness and not being able to see, like, it's actually not still helpful if the patient feels calm, but their labs are still spiking because they're still sick. It's actually tricking the body into thinking it's safe when it's not, where your natural reactions would be protecting you because you would feel like something was wrong and you would act on it. And then if you are still reacting, they just say that you're stressed or that you're highly sensitive. And you know what? If you feel like you still have a problem in your house or you feel like the remediation wasn't complete, your doctor just recommending DNRS just backed up your family on not helping you figure it out. I don't know if people grasp the severity of what this means for their health long term, because this is absolutely devastating. And I'm so glad that I did not fall into the trap or the hands of these people. I didn't even know what DNRS was until I was like up to my neck in strategic mold avoidance, and I was already trusting my reactions, so no one had a chance to tell me anything. But I don't know, would they have gotten me? Would have convinced me that it was like an anxiety or a trauma? I mean, I've been through it in my life. I've seen trauma. I've woken up next to dead people. Like, I've seen trauma. That's not what's kept me sick. It's not. It's the mold. And when we have a lot of trauma in our past and someone tells us, well, you're still reacting this way because of trauma, and you don't know better, it's really easy to believe that. And I think that I probably would have, because I did think for a long time I just had depression and anxiety from these exposures. And it was literally my brain responding to the exposures and my immune system. The problem here is that before people fully understood what mold was doing with everyone's immune system and brains, people leapt in to cash in on it. The mold is gold, right? Let's all profit off this. What can we do to make money off of this, right? And so all this information was hijacked by people who are like, oh, I know everything about that. Let me tell you here. Pay this bill and I'll work with you. I know all about that. But not any single one of them is advocating for this going mainstream, is connecting the emergence of mold hypersensitivity with the most famous unsolved syndrome in the United States. Because doing so would make this mainstream, which would bring it out of the cash pay doctor's hands, and we can't have that. Plus we have like pushback from the insurance industry. People are like advocating, oh, we just need insurance to understand. We just need new insurance laws. We just need insurance to cover this. Insurance stopped covering it because it was too expensive. So like you don't need to notify the insurance company of this problem. They're well aware and they don't want to pay for it. And it's like, I feel like people don't understand how deep this deception goes. And so they're like looking for hope and answers in people who are liars. This destroys families in so many ways. Not only in the way that I told you of like the sickest person not being invalidated and then not being able to serve as the warning for their family because they're believed, and it can work as like preventative measures so the rest of the family doesn't get as sick. But it also destroys like the fabric. If you are in any type of state of like any type of brain damage from this and showing any type of personality changes, which we all know that we exhibit personality changes. We're more angered, we're quicker tempered, we're confused, we're not clear. Like, these personality changes affect your relationships. They affect your relationships with your kids. They affect how you parent. They affect how you love. They affect how you interact. They affect the very fabric that weaves your family together and destroys and erodes the fabric of your family life. And I, for one, will not ever stand for that. You can destroy my family over my dead body. Come get me. Because this ain't it. So that's what exposing mold is trying to counter right now. We're trying to prevent further erosion. Me personally, I'm trying to prevent further erosion of the family structure by people not understanding this, because I feel like those of us who are up against the wall are fighting an invisible war that no one even believes exists. Like, we're sitting here, we're being tortured. We're prisoners of war. We're sitting here and watching our family members being tortured, and we're being tortured ourselves, and we're watching our lives crumble right in front of our faces. So the whole point of exposing mold has always been to expose the truth in the remediation industry, expose the truth in the testing industry, expose the truth about DNRS, expose the truth about everything. And even Dr. Campbell gave us an endorsement live, and he said, we are the only organization providing honest, accurate information about mold hypersensitivity, because we are. Because everyone else is fine if people in their organization recommend DNRS to you. And we'll fight over this because we want people to get control of their health. We don't want you just swept under the rug. And we want people to get healthy and then come help us fight this fight. I don't know what it's going to take to make this go mainstream, but leaving this in the hands of the cash pay doctors isn't it. It's not it. And people are getting sick of getting ripped off without answers. And you know what? And people are starting to see through it. People are starting to see through the truth. If you are one of the people who are starting to see through all of the lies in the industry, consider becoming an Exposing Mold member. If you ever miss like a live class that we're doing, you can always review it in the membership portal. Like, all of the classes that we've ever done are uploaded there. Exposing mold is like, this is what we're trying to expose, and this is what we're trying to make mainstream, and we need your help. We need you to join our fight. We need you to deep dive into the classes that we've done and take a look at the information and start making the connections of like, holy shit, that makes a lot of sense, because a lot of people are starting to open their eyes to see what's going on and how all their diagnoses are actually connected to their environmental problems. Also, if you're like really riled up about helping us and you want to consider maybe joining our board of directors, shoot me an email, because we might be restructuring soon and we might be working with like a closer group of a board of directors to like really specifically target some things. So if that sounds good, you can send me an email. And so thanks for joining. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.